Hello, gentle viewers, and welcome to another episode of Alistair Reviews It. Today I'm going to be doing a quickie review of a book called Crown of Feathers by Nicki Pau Preto. So, the book, I'm just going to go and quickly read the book description to you guys. So, here it says An ember in the ashes meets three dark crowns in this lush debut fantasy novel about a girl who disguises herself as a boy to join a secret group of warriors that ride phoenixes into battle. I had a sister once. In a world ruled by fierce warrior queens, a grand empire was built upon the backs of the Phoenix Riders, legendary heroes who soared through the sky on wings of fire, until a war between two sisters ripped it all apart. I promised her the throne would not come between us. 16 years later, Veronica is a war orphan who dreams of becoming a Phoenix Rider from the stories of old. After shocking betrayal from her controlling sister, Veronica decides to go alone to find the riders, even if that means disguising herself as a boy to join their rank. But it is a fact of life that one must kill or be killed, rule or be ruled. Just as Veronica finally feels like she belongs, her sister turns up and reveals a tangle of web lies between them that will change everything. That's the gist of the book so far. So I'm going to go overall and talk about my pros and my cons for the book. So my pros, it felt like one of those Dragon, like Anne McCaffrey books, but instead of using dragons, Preto uses phoenixes, which I thought was a pretty cool twist on the typical usage of like the boy finds a dragon egg. Instead, here it's the girl finds a phoenix egg, and I really liked that portion of it. I'm into the dragon egg trope, so when I saw that this book basically had that, but as phoenixes, I was all about it. And there is some well done LGBT character work in this book. It is actually very organic to the book, and it doesn't feel out of place at all. And my last pro is that the ending made me immediately want to pick up the next book. Okay, now let's get into the cons a bit. Stuff that wasn't for me. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm just going to say it was not for me. So the book initially feels like it feels a lot like Aragon, but less nuanced almost. I know a lot of people kind of shit on Aragon because Christopher Paolini drew from a lot of source material from a lot of other authors in order to create the world that he did create. But he did do a very good job of doing that. Here, I feel like it was not done so well. Kind of leading into my second con is the world building. I just it seemed like it was going to be interesting. Like a lot of the very detailed descriptions in the book kind of intrigue you, and you want to know more or how that fits within it. But it's kind of like a big puzzle, and the puzzle pieces don't fit. For example, in this society, for the most part, like females rule or females take charge. It's not a patriarchy; it's a matriarchy. But at the same time, she has to pretend to be a man or a boy to be able to join these Phoenix Riders. It just didn't feel like it was written in a way that it made me. It just didn't feel like that portion of the book was written in a way that made me believe that that was going on in a matriarchal society. I don't know. It just didn't work for me. It just the writing for that portion didn't work for me. It seemed like she just stuck that in as it seemed like the author stuck that in as kind of a seemed like the author kind of stuck that in as a flare signal to try to get people to read it because it almost felt like, oh, it's like Mulan, you trying to go undercover and learn how to fight and all that stuff. But that's not how it felt at the end of the day. And it just did not feel organic to the book. Leading into that, the main character, Veronica, or Veronica, is kind of a pushover. And I think that the author kind of intended her to be. However, it kind of it crosses a line. Her sister, Val, however, is not a pushover. She's kind of a bad person, the B word. And for the most part, it makes sense what she says. Like I was like, oh my gosh, Veronica, listen to Val. Just keep on listening to Val. Except for Val does a couple of bad, really, really bad things, and I'm like, don't listen to Val. But Veronica just doesn't establish herself as a strong female character, I want to say. And instead, I think she kind of leans on some of the male characters she finds herself with throughout the book and her sister. And I feel like, in part, that was the author's intention, because I think she wanted people to perceive the main character as kind of a weak character and kind of grow her over time. So maybe that'll be different in the next book. But in this book, it was a little disappointing that I didn't see any of that kind of growth. And instead of being like, hey, I'm going to take charge, I'm going to go out and kick ass, it's more like, oh, I want to ask. It's better to ask than to command. It's better to do. It's not better to ask than to command. When I hey say I when when at work I ask somebody to do something, it's very different than when I command somebody to do something. When I command, it gets done. When I ask, it might not get done. So, like, that's the difference. But overall, it's funny because in the title it said it's a kind of mixture of an ember in the ashes and three dark crowns. I haven't read Three Dark Crowns. If you have, please let me know what you thought about that book. Um, I haven't picked it up. I don't even think I've read any blurb about it. But I have read An Ember in the Ashes, and I read the second one in that series. I have not read the third one because the second one, for me, did not work. It was kind of the same thing, where the main characters would plead, they kind of want to take half. They kind of want to make half choices in order to accomplish their goals, but aren't really willing to uh, go the distance and be maybe a little bit brutal, or kind of hurt a couple feelings along the way. And I think that was the same feeling I got with Crown of Feathers, that I got in An Ember in the Ashes, that really bothered me, where the characters were just not willing to push the mold in order to accomplish what they needed to accomplish. And I was like, hey, if you're at war, if you're fighting for your life, there's no time to say, hey, please, can you do this? Or, oh no, we have to change this. Or no, I'm not gonna kill anybody because it's bad. I'm sorry, you're at war. Like, people die, and that's the awful truth of it. And at some point, the characters in the books need to face the awful truth about what happens. And yes, maybe that character initially, I think that's great if the character initially isn't willing to do that. But there has to be some sort of crucible that the character goes through in order to grow. You can't stunt the character like this in this thought process that just doesn't work. And I think I ranted a little bit about that. So I thought it was good. It wasn't my. I thought it was good. I might pick up the second one. I was more willing to pick. I was more into picking it up right after I read it than I am now. So I'm gonna be putting this down, and I have other books to get to. But please let me know if you want me to pick up the next book, if you've read it, or if you know that it actually gets better. Because right now I'm kind of a little, you know, no, no. Okay, that's it. And please let me know your thoughts and whether you've read it, whether you're going to read it, and any other suggestions you have in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and do all that other stuff. Hasta la vista.